So this is another of my how-to videos on how to brace and balance these Turkish bows, and it's specifically the natural material bows. Like a modern material bow, you wouldn't have to do the balancing, but on these bows it's very important. They are very durable. Like in the old days, they were supposed to last for like 3 generations. Of course, that might include some repair and even a horn replacement, perhaps. Replaced horns is quite common. Looking at your old bows, there are quite a few that has horns replaced. It's all usually very nicely done, so it's difficult to see it, but it seems like exchanging the horns on the bows is something that was quite common, at least. Basically, any repair is quite common on these bows, on these bows, because many of the original bows have some sort of repair. I guess it means that they were used for a long time and stuff happens. And most things on these bows can be repaired. But there is one thing that is difficult to repair. Anything can be repaired, but if the bow breaks through like the horn and the core and the sinew layer, then it's a lot of work and the repair will never be really good. And this is what can happen, which is deadly for the bows, is limb twist. That is if during the draw one tip starts to bend one side and maybe the other tip bends the other way, and then the whole bow is like is twisted. And I have an example of this. I have a Mughal bow that I finished in 2012, so it's been broken for a while now. But I just keep it like this as a reminder for myself to never do this again. So this is a Mughal bow, or a crab bow. Of course, many of these original ones, this isn't original, of course, I made it, but the original ones, they tend to have the tips almost touching, so there's a lot of reflex in them. But that's most likely not the shape the bows would have when they were in use, because that amount of reflex would not work, basically. So I think this kind of outline for a Mughal in use would be more normal, or perhaps even with more string follow or deflex in the limbs, in the bending sections. Because what happened was I braced it, I put on the string, and then right away I started drawing it without checking for the checking that the limbs were straight. And what happened was that this upper one, it started bending a little bit sideways, and then I drew farther, and then suddenly just flips to the side, and then you get this twisting of the limb, and then there's a big crack in the horn, and it goes all the way through the core and out through the sinew layer. And so this is kind of dead. But live and learn, and so on. But anyways, this is sort of the only way to kill a horn bow, I would say. There are maybe other ways, but this is the main one, I think. If we can avoid this, then you'll avoid most other problems. Because if you compare these composites with a wooden bow, they are very safe against overdrawing. A long bow is made for a certain draw, and if you draw it much farther, it will likely break. It'll say bang, and it'll be splinters all over the place. But these bows, even if they were going to break because of overdrawing, all the sinew in the sinew layer would keep the parts together, so there wouldn't be any flying pieces. So if these were ever to break, I wouldn't be too scared about it, because no sharp bits would be flying about. But these, especially the Turkish ones, they're so short that they start stacking like right after full draw. So this one is I think it is 45 inches, and it's made for a 28 inch draw, and at 29 it just stops, or it starts to stack, and you can really feel a wall there, kind of. It's difficult to draw it much farther. And so this prevents the bows from being overdrawn and being broken because of an overdraw. I've also had lots of string break with these Turkish bows, and it seems to not harm the bows at all, which is kind of surprising, but I guess it has to do with the fact that the limbs are so short and so lightweight. These bows, they generally weigh like 300 grams, and so if you had a bigger, longer bow, there would be more mass in the tips, and when you draw it and the string is cut, the limbs move forward and they have to stop on their own, and that means that the horn belly is under tension, and it's not that good in tension. So they might break when they move forward and cannot stop on their own. But these Turkish bows, they seem to handle that perfectly, which is surprising, but it seems, I mean, I've done it so many times now, it's almost a standard thing. Anyways, so they're very durable, but there is this one thing, the balancing. And let me show you how I do this again. So this is, well, it is 75 pounds at 27, I think. It's about that. So it's quite heavy, but it's okay. Anyways, so then I start by putting the string in the loop. Putting the string loop in the knock, I mean. And then I hold it here to sort of control everything here. And then I put this on my thumb, but it's best to have another helper to put this on for you. And then putting it against the knees, bending it in the middle, and then when you pull back, you should make sure to not twist the limbs in any way, just like I shown on the Mughal. Never twist the bow, but bend it in one plane backwards. And then it's a matter of if I can do this one-handed. These Bayezid tips are kind of difficult because they're so long. And there it is in both knocks. And before I let go the pressure against my knees, I make sure that everything feels secure and that the string loops are in both of the knock grooves. And you can let go slowly, and then right away check how the string aligns with the tips, so that the string is in one line with the tips. And this is quite okay. This tip is bending a little bit that way, and this tip is going a little bit the other way. And it's important to fix this right away, because if you leave the bow in an uncorrected manner, or if it's not straight and it's resting for a while, being not straight, then it'll be more difficult to correct than if you do it right away. If you do the correction right away, then it is easier. And there it is actually straight. So when you have checked that the alignment of the tips is good, so in this plane that there is no twisting of the limbs, then you can check this the way it bends seen from the side. And this is just a check if there is more or less bend on the upper or lower limb. And it looks good. I think. There's a lot of recurve. I like it. So when the string is on and you right away checked like this way, checking that the tips is in the same line as the string, and if it isn't, let me see. Well, there's a slight bend in this tip, bends that way, and so how to correct that? Well, I do it this way, and it's quite controllable because you hold the limb and the string as well, so you make sure that this cannot the string cannot fall off the string bridge. And And then I hold the same almost up here, both the limb and the string. And then I put the knee against the Kazan eye, sort of, or the lower part of the Kazan. And then also the knee on the string, so that you're bending both the string and the limb at the same time. Because if you're going to just bend the limb itself, that will, then the string will move off. It will move closer to you, and eventually it'll fall off. And because this has a string bridge, it would take a lot to do that, but it's best to bend the string as well as the limb. And then you bend it a little bit, and then you let go and you check, and now it's bent a little bit the other way. And so it's best to start with a little bend, so just slightly bending it and then checking. And if it doesn't give you any response in that it moves over, you can either do the same amount of bending but with longer hold. So you just bend it and hold it for half a minute if you like. And then check. And now this tip is bending the other way, which is good because after you put on the string and you balanced it, it's best to let the bow rest for a while, for 5 minutes or 10 minutes. And you can, if you leave it for longer than 10 minutes, I would go and check it. Because it might have, when it's resting, it might just creep back. So then you need to continue the balancing. And so when this when this sideways alignment is good, this is the important bit. Then you can check this. This isn't that important, but you need to check the up and down if it's which one is bending the most. And if actually there's a little bit difference now. This one is bending more than this. So the correction for that is I hold both here and then put the knee against the limb that is bending the least, and then just pushing it a little bit. And then holding. And if this doesn't give you any results, then you need to hold more for a longer time. And there is one thing you can sort of do wrong here, is that if you bend the bow a lot, the string will relax and then it can fall out of the grooves. And then when you let go, then you'll just follow forward because the bow has unbraced itself. So if you're gonna do this, it's good to make sure that you take both index finger and index fingers and thumbs, and you hold each of the loop inside of the knock. Then you can push as much as you'd like, almost. Well, not really as much as you like, but until the string is not tight anymore. So there it's pretty good. Now it's bending a little bit more on this side, but I think I'll leave it like that. And finally, there is this third thing that you can do, and that is straightening the Kazans a little bit. And that's like on this Mughal I showed you, these bows have like the string touching almost at this point. So the triangular Kazan is it's for a long section, it is parallel with the string, and that makes for a very unstable floppy bow, kind of. I don't understand that design, but I think they were just used with a lot of string follow, which makes them more stable. But if you bring the distance up, if you make this distance bigger on the Turkish bows, they will become more stable. And this is the this method where you bend, you put your foot on the Kazan eye and then you force the bow out like this. And again, be cautious and don't do too much, but you can do it until this part here in between is straight, not more than that. This one, it doesn't need so much of this as other bows, but a little bit is okay. This section, or this partly the Kazan and also the Kazan eye isn't stressed fully until you get to full draw. So when you just brace the bow, the stress is mainly in here, while towards full draw, the outer parts of the bow is also stressed a bit. So that's why it's good to force stress into these areas just when you brace it, because then all of the bow sort of has been to full draw in a way, or every part of the bow has been stressed to some extent before you draw it. Because when you, well, basically when you push this out, the bow overall will have less reflex, and that's why it's more stable than afterwards. And of course the angles as well will, yeah. It's mainly the angles, not the overall reflex, that gives us the stability to the bow. Anyhows, so yeah, that's it. It's ready to be drawn. If there's just a little bit difference upper and lower limb, I would use the one that bends the most up. And then when you draw it, it's good to draw it a little bit and then check. And then I will correct this a little bit more. And the lower limb looks fine, and then it looks good. It is quite stable, this one. I think this, what I have defined as the upper limb, has a little bit of twists to one side. But I'm sure this is going to be cured after just a few times. Oh, it is heavy.